All right, welcome to SOS Discussion. It's your boy John. We here. We live, right? Oh, my bad. I'm just kidding. It's SOS Discussion. SOS, we're not just accurate, we spot on. I got my people with me. And today we talking about the Cowboys. They won 2 games in a row. They beat the Chargers on the road, came back home. They beat the Philadelphia they beat the Philadelphia Eagles, excuse me. Are the Cowboys contenders or pretenders?
Absolutely contenders, man. This team is so balanced. And who would have thought? SEC over there, Jamar getting hyped up because it's true. The Cowboys, who would have thought for years it's been the defense plaguing them, right? The secondary being released wide open, anybody just dropping dimes all day down the field, and like the defensive pressure not really doing enough. But now, even with people out because of COVID, because of injuries and things like that, they've still pushed through and still had a strong defensive front, and that's really made a difference because when you have Dak Prescott, throwing for 300 yards, you have Zeke who seems to have not fallen off like a lot of people thought. He heard what a lot of y'all have been saying, and he's coming right back and pounding up and really doing good. You have Pollard there as a good backup, but then you have this defense who has always been a question. Loading up on them has been worked out well for Jerry World, and that last draft has come to fruition and all the other drafts before, and making sure that this defense is finally acceptable because they have the most turnovers in the NFL, 8 so far, and it's looking like they're going to continue to do well because Trayvon Diggs is back there and you have a strong defensive line.
Jamar, can y'all hear? No, yeah,
Yeah.
I can't hear you, Jamar. All right, well, when we're trying to get Jamar, we'll go ahead, Mia. What do you think about the
All
Cowboys?
right.
Are they
So
contenders or pretenders?
I have watched this Cowboys team for so many years, and so many times it seems like, okay, we're about to get over that hump. This is going to be the year, and things fall apart. Now, I will say this team is put together a lot different than before. They have strong quarterback, strong running back. The offensive line could be better, but they're doing what they can with what they have. Coaching is a lot better. And so with that brings, creativity, and it puts your players in a better position to be more successful. This defense is coming together in ways that not a lot of people would have expected. And on top of that, you have to consider how many defensive players are out right now. I believe the Cowboys have about 5 starters or so on the defense, who are not playing right now. And so depth is a key piece to that situation in Dallas. And I feel like it's a situation that can only get better as time goes on. If they can stay healthy, stay out of trouble, then they could definitely be contenders. I think right now it's too early to drink that juice for anybody because anything can happen at any point during the season.
So I don't necessarily know if it's too early to drink that juice, and I think we'll be talking about a team next that may be looking like a contender already. But when you look at these Dallas Cowboys, they've played the Chargers. They were probably in a legal shift or a penalty or two away from losing that game. And then we came back and beat the Eagles team that we were supposed to beat. But what I really like about this Eagles team so far is they're letting the defense dictate what they do on offense, right? We saw last year the Cowboys just kind of came out. They said, Dak Prescott, we're going to throw the ball 40 times a game. We're going to utilize our wide receivers. And that's just what we're going to do. But we've seen 2 of the last 3 games, they've ran the ball more than they have thrown the ball. And, in the Dak Prescott era, when they run the ball more than they throw the ball, the Cowboys are 26-0. So last night we saw a lot of too high safety with the Eagles, them playing back, trying to defend the pass on Amari Cooper and the threat of CeeDee Lamb. So what did Kellen Moore do? He said, we're going to come out and we're going to pound the ball with Zeke. Zeke always traditionally has had his best games against the Eagles. And we saw that again last night with 116 total yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Tony Pollard to come in with the change of pace as well. And then, of course, with Dak, as accurate he's been, I think he has the second highest completion percentage in NFL history after 3 games. The team is really clicking. And then you talked about on the defensive side, they're missing some starters, but I think it's been key plays by Trayvon Diggs. Obviously, he's been a superstar. Dan Quinn just has that defense looking competent compared to how they looked under Mike Nolan last year. So I think you've seen just a better defensive effort. Obviously, Micah Parsons is a superstar, but who we don't talk about enough is our 3rd-round pick, the defensive tackle Osa from UCLA. He's really wreaking havoc up the middle as well. So the defense looks competent, and I would be remiss not to talk about our two Hall of Famers on the offensive line who are playing like Hall of Famers again. Zach Martin, the best right guard in the league, and then Tyron Smith, a man over there at left tackle. They've been playing awesome, and it's showing in the run game and in the pass protection. That's why Dak's been able to do his thing, and then Tony Pollard and Zeke doing their thing. So it's too early to tell if they're contenders, but they're definitely the best team in the NFC East, and it's looking like the Cowboys team is going to be able to make some noise this year. Jamar, do we got you back? It doesn't look like it. Does anybody have anything else to say about these Cowboys?
See, I'm surprised because I'm in a room full of Cowboys fans. And a lot of times, too many Cowboys fans like drink too much of that blue juice and just like go crazy and like Cowboys undefeated every season. Like, no, chill. But this year, I'm surprised everybody's, having some hesitancy. Maybe it's because your own team, you're close to your heart, and you know how like things can just like at a drop of the dime just change. But I really see like different things from this Cowboys team when you look at how offensively potent they are. Dak Prescott has been carrying the team very well for years and years, and now he's doing it even more and being even more intelligent. You have good running backs there, a lot of diversity in there. And then you have that defense, which is always the missing piece. I'm surprised that you guys aren't like already banging on the door. Like they could be contenders because I feel that way as an mostly AFC fan.
Well, so if you look at Dak Prescott in his last 12 starts against the NFC East, he's 11-1. So what they did last night, although it was impressive, although they won by 20 points, they pretty much handily kind of were winning that game the whole time. If it wasn't by the fumble by Dak in the end zone that gave them 7 points. That's just what Dak does against the NFC East. Like I said, that wasn't surprising. And if you look at that Chargers game, obviously a win is a win. It's hard to win in the NFL. It's hard to win on the road. But like I said, there were some key penalties down the stretch. They had an illegal shift that took away a touchdown. They had another penalty that took away a touchdown. We won that game by 3 points. Just simple math, tells you the Chargers probably should have won that game. And they probably lost it more than we won it. And, like I said, we're happy to walk away with the win. But it's just 2 wins. You know what I mean? We have a tough test against the Panthers. They have the number 1 defense in the NFL right now. So as Cowboys fans, we know not to drink that Kool-Aid too early because it's been, over 20 years since we've been to an NFC Championship game. So I think we've learned our lesson.
Yeah, we know better. We know to wait it out and see what it's going to be because, like you said, things can change on the drop of a dime. But so far going into the season, I looked at how they did go toe to toe with Tom Brady and the Bucs, and how that was a really close game. How they did, overcome the adversity of what that Chargers game was, and they still found a way to win. And then with the Eagles, say the NFC East is the NFC least. You know what I mean? We get that. But the way that they dominated that game said a lot for them. So, 3 games down, but yeah, still a full season to go.
So speaking of Tom Brady and the Bucs, there was a lot of talk about, them returning all 22 starters and could this Bucs team, go 20-0. Well, that plan failed on Sunday when they traveled to LA and went and visited the Los Angeles Rams, who are currently 3-0. And with the introduction of Matt Stafford, they're looking like a real contender in the NFC. So I'll say, are the Rams the best team in the NFC right now?
They have to be one of them at least. When you add Matthew Stafford with all of those weapons that you have there, you get Cooper. Besides running, you have, Sony Michel and everybody like that. They had a lot of injuries there. But when you have like Cooper Kupp and you have all those players down the field, you have Deshaun Jackson, who he's existed for years and years. No matter if he's 86, he'll still move past secondaries. It doesn't matter. He could still get a touchdown regardless. You have all those offensive weapons, and then you have Sean McVay, who can scheme up with the best of them and was able to take Jared Goff to the Super Bowl. Well, now you have a massive upgrade with Matthew Stafford, who we've seen struggle with that Detroit Lions, and now he's finally getting his just due. It's really unfair. And then, of course, they have a little bit of worries on the defensive end when it comes to depth. But if you keep those stars healthy, you have one of the best players, the best player in the league right there on the defensive line. And then you have in the back too, you have Jalen Ramsey as well. It's really hard to beat that team. And I feel like when you talk about complete teams, they're right there on that list.
Definitely have to agree with Andrea there. The Rams right now look like a complete team. And something I said in the offseason when they acquired Matthew Stafford, was that was a major upgrade for this team, especially at the quarterback position. So I think the Rams can definitely go far with Matthew Stafford. Their defense is still playing at a decent or a good caliber. And so yeah, I think the Rams right now they look like the toughest team to play.
So what I'm about to
And my
say is
bad.
going to sound crazy. Oh, okay, Jamar is back. Jamar, talk to me. Talk to me. What
You're
are the
back,
Rams the best
Jamar.
team in the NFC right now? And sorry you missed out on
I
your
think the
Cowboys.
okay. I think the Rams are definitely. Damn, I got a big echo of myself. Uh, I think. Go ahead, John.
All right. What I'm going to
I
say
can't
is
even talk with my. I can't.
okay. What I was going to say is what I'm going to say is might sound crazy, but I do not think the Rams are the best team in the NFC. I think the team they just beat are the best team in the NFC, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And when we look at it last year, right, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost to the Chiefs in the regular season, and then after that they didn't lose another regular season game, and then went on to beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl pretty handily. And I could see the same scenario happening this year. Right now, the Rams do look good, really good. We know that was the number one defense in the league last year before Brandon Staley left to go coach the Los Angeles Chargers. They still have two of the best defensive players in the league, might have the best overall player in the league in Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. And that's just a really sound defensive team, the way that they play. And then on offense, you talk about Matthew Stafford. You know what I mean? Shout out Dallas. You know what I'm saying? Well, you know, he's still Matthew Stafford. He's never won a playoff game, right? And we're putting lofty expectations saying that he needs to take this team to the Super Bowl and win it for a quarterback who's never won a playoff game. We know that they're always offensively going to be at an advantage because of the brilliance of Sean McVay. And then, you know, we talked about the weapons they have with Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. I got to mention Tyler Higbee because he's on my fantasy team. But, you know, that's just a really well-coached offense. And it's just a really good football team. I think they might end up with the 1 seed, after the regular season. But like I said, you just don't count out Thomas, Edward Patrick, Brady Jr., and the Buccaneers. You know, I think as the season continues to go on, that secondary will get healthy. That team will continue to play better. And Tom Brady will figure it out. And I think if they meet the Rams again in the playoffs, Tom Brady will get his revenge. So the Rams look like the best team in the NFC right now, but I've learned over my years not to bet against Tom Brady. I think the Buccaneers are truly the best team in the NFC, and if they meet again, they'll show it when it matters.
Man, I am a Jets fan, so I have been dealing with. I know it's awful. Don't. Let's not even talk about that. I live.
I would have known
I live.
this like
Wow.
last week in the chat.
I live a terrible existence. Every second of my life is misery, and I hate them. And I hate Rex Ryan for tricking me to believe that team in the first place when I was younger. Anyway, I hate them. But I also hate Tom Brady, and it's grown from an appreciation, but like out of spite. Like I hate how good he is. Oh my gosh, I hate him, and that's one thing. Never really doubt Tom Brady because he could be 57. He's one of the oldest. He's about to be one of the oldest quarterbacks in the league. And if you compare him to who's actually the oldest quarterback in the league, something ain't right. Tom Brady still looks like he's 12. But anyway, Tom Brady's still great. And I think it's a matchup issue because with the Rams, you have that inside pressure that Aaron Donald is creating. And one thing about Tom Brady has always been that inside pressure. If there's one thing to do with Tom Brady, if you get that inside pressure, you can do some damage to him. So I think if they see the Rams again and that secondary is all right, that's going to be an interesting matchup. If they can recover from that, I mean, of course, they're bound to win. You get Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, he's going to win unless you're Eli Manning or Nick Foles somehow. But that is one thing to see if this offensive line stays healthy, and you get that secondary together, good things can happen. But it's Todd Bowles creating with that secondary, and I believe in him. He used to be our head coach. He was pretty good at that. So
yeah, and let's not forget the Rams didn't have to deal with Antonio Brown on Sunday. That's a big piece as well.
yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. All right. So last but not least, the team that lost in the Super Bowl, we all thought they would bounce back. We talked about them being a dynasty already. Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs, they're just going to walk on the field. They're going to score 40. They're going to win every game. And Patrick Mahomes is going to win 10 Super Bowls in the next 15 years. But now the Chiefs are 1-2, their last fourth in their division. Is it time to panic on the Chiefs, or is that an overreaction?
Okay, so they went against three really good teams in the Browns, the Ravens, and the Chargers, right? So it's just you're starting off with some of the worst matchups you could possibly do when it comes to a top competition in the AFC. It's a lot to deal with. So I think that's one pause where you're like, maybe not hit the panic button. But I think that people aren't really noticing this or talking about it, that Patrick Mahomes is hurt. All right. His toe is clearly affecting him. And it seems like he's gimping and walking around and always grimacing on his right toe. Of course, he played through the pain. That's what football players do in general. But I think that's really affecting him. And he's already had these issues where, like, I wouldn't say that he makes a lot of Okay, he does sometimes make turnover worthy plays, but he's aggressive in usually smart ways. Now he's kind of not. And maybe it's because of the toe. Maybe it's because they've been in these situations where, this defense really isn't as good. So he's going to have to put the team on its back more. And he doesn't have that third option. I really think that not having Sammy Watkins actually hurts them, because that adds another weapon when Tyreek Hill, and when you have the tight end not doing well as well, Kelsey as well. I'm sorry. So I think all these factors are really like causing them heat, and it's really unfortunate that it's happening in that loaded AFC West, because that's a bloodbath in there. The Raiders are looking really, really good, and that's going to be an issue. And then you also have the Broncos doing well as well, although that might kind of be a little bit of a mirage. But I think what's important going forward is finding a way to just shine Josh Gordon. So maybe that'll help them. That dude, even if he's been in and out the league, he's still an athletic freak. But I think it is a little bit of pause for concern, even with those three opponents that they went against, because things aren't looking quite right there.
I think, and I hate to keep saying this, but it's so true. It's still early in the season. And for one thing, I think we see that Kansas City is mortal, right? They're not immortal. And we saw that basically with Tampa Bay as well. I feel like the Chiefs necessarily aren't completely healthy, and that makes a big difference in how they perform on the field. Andrea talked about Mahomes not even being healthy, and he's still playing. But when you look at the pieces that aren't even on the field, and then they're still losing by 1 point or just a touchdown, if that, it's still early in the season to say, no, the Chiefs have been dethroned. I think they still have a lot of football left to continue to put things together. They just brought in Josh Gordon, so that gives you another valuable piece to really work with. And they're known for spreading the ball around. So with that and their coaching style in that sense, and then being able to get healthy and stay healthy, I think the Chiefs will be fine later on down the season.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs will be fine. They're only 1-2, and there's still 14 games left. But I do think there's some flaws about this team that may ultimately stop them from reaching their biggest goal, which is winning the Super Bowl, right? When we looked at the year that Tom Brady was able to get past them, and I think it was beat the Rams in the Super Bowl, that defense was kind of their Achilles heel. And, kind of ironically, it came down to D4 jumping off sides. When you look at the defense right now, they're kind of in the bottom 3 to 4 in most of the major statistical categories. And then on offense, you've just seen them be really lackadaisical. I think Tyreek Hill fumbled for the first time in like 63 games. We've seen Clyde Edwards-Helaire develop somewhat of a fumbling problem. His name is a handful. Jesus. And then, Patrick Mahomes, the uncharacteristic turnovers, right? When he was making all of those fast plays and things early on in his career, he was able to still be efficient, right? And not throw those interceptions. But now we see kind of, with the no look, he threw the no look pass, and, you could question whether the receiver should catch it or not. But at the end of the day, if the receiver sees you looking at somewhere else, he's probably not just super focused on, I'm about to catch the ball. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of too much flashiness resulting in turnovers. And Patrick Mahomes thinking he can do too much. We saw that interception he threw against the Ravens where he kind of just threw it up. Like he was like, I'm Patrick Mahomes. I can get it to Travis Kelce. No, you can't, right? And then in the Chargers game, we saw him kind of just flick the ball up, just kind of showing off his arm strength. And he overthrew Travis Kelce and threw a crucial pick that ultimately ended up with the Chargers getting the ball. And then with the aggressiveness of Brandon Staley, them going for it on 4th and 9, they were able to score a touchdown and secure that win. So I think the turnovers and definitely the play of the defense, we've seen the defense regress. When the Chiefs were dominating and they were able to actually secure the Super Bowl, it's because that defense rose up to the middle of the pack. And that's really all they need. But now that defense is back kind of at the bottom tier towards the end of the league, and they're turning the ball over too much on offense. And we've seen this kind of in the past. This isn't an indictment on Andy Reid, but especially as Cowboys fans too, we've seen this kind of in the past with Andy Reid. He's really player friendly. He likes to empower his players, but now I'm seeing a lot of personality comes from these Chiefs players. I'm seeing a lot of lackadaisical, a lot of, them out there kind of showcasing their brand. Like I said, Patrick Mahomes throwing the passes behind his back and all of that and everything. And, they don't look like the same Chiefs team. They don't look locked in. So, maybe that's something Andy Reid needs to tighten up as well. But this Chiefs team, obviously, I think they're better than the Broncos. They're better than the Raiders, and they're better than the Chargers ultimately. But this definitely could come back to bite them in terms of winning another Super Bowl.
Jamar, are you
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little echo from myself. I'm gonna just take my AirPods out, but I just like to say, touching on all topics, the Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl because I believe it, and the Kansas City Chiefs are gonna be fine because everybody in that division is frauds, especially the Broncos and the Raiders with a horrible coach. What was the second?
The Rams.
And the Rams are perfect because Sean McVay can call the best calls in the world, but if you don't got a quarterback that can see eye to eye with you, it doesn't matter. And now he got one, and he also has a quarterback that has a receiver that loves him to death in Cooper Kupp. They're going to be fine. They're going to the NFC Championship with the Cowboys, so we'll see them there.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. So back to the Chiefs. All right. Do we got any final thoughts on the Chiefs?
Yeah, I will say it's like not like major concerns, right? Like we're not like, oh my gosh, the Chiefs are trash right now. But I will push back on like the fact that the Raiders aren't like real. I really like what the Raiders are doing. Their passing attack. I think people think that Derek Carr just sucks. I think he's a pretty good quarterback. He's not a tremendous, great. Oh my gosh, I'm carrying the team quarterback, but he's really good. Well, he's good. I don't know about really, but he can really do a lot, especially with those weapons that they have around you. You have Darren Waller, you have Ruggs who can stretch it downfield, and Renfro also too. I mean, I really like their defense as well. I'm sorry, their defensive end is really great. I believe his name is Crosby, right? Crosby or Casper?
Max
Crosby. Yes, Max Crosby really doing well, and then you have Nika Ngakoue as well. I really like this Raiders team, but I think they're going to be fighting head to head. I think ultimately, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. And like you said, it was a coin flip. Football's weird. So any game you could be 0-3 or 3-0, depending on a couple plays. I think that they recover, but it does pause for concern when it comes to their championship contention, like Jonathan said.
And they need to, oh, my bad. Go ahead, Mia.
I think you brought up a good point with saying how their defense needs to be just middle of the pack. I think this is still a high-powered offensive team, especially when it's healthy. And I think in that Super Bowl, we saw that their offensive line wasn't holding up worth anything, and that made a huge difference in why they fizzled out the way that they did in the Super Bowl. But on the defensive tip, when they get, Frank Clark back, Ward back and things like that, I think this defense can rise back up to where they were. They don't necessarily have to be a top 10 defense because their offense can still outscore you when everything is working like a well-oiled machine the way it did at the beginning of last season.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we talked about the Cowboys being 2-1. Jamar said they're going to the Super Bowl. We talked about the Rams potentially being the best team in the NFC. Jamar said they're going to meet the Cowboys in the NFC Championship on the Cowboys' way to the Super Bowl. And then we talked about the Chiefs being 1-2, but we pretty much determined that was, not much of a big deal. They're probably still going to win their division, and they'll be fine ultimately in the long run. Thank y'all for tapping in. SOS discussion. Once again, SOS, Spot On Sports, where we not just accurate, we spot on. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
All right.